Hi everybody, what's going on? My name is Nathan and today I'm going to try another quick 5 or 10 minute video just sort of talking about a card or some cards. What I'm actually going to do is answer a question that somebody really recently sent me on Facebook, and a couple of the questions that he's asked were recently asked by other people, and I was planning on sending him like a quick audio response, but I thought, yeah, you know what, this has been asked recently, some other people might also benefit from the information, and it gives me a chance to do another one of these quick videos in which I'm not in front of the computer, and it's just a little bit different. Okay, so the question is from Arthur Jing or Jing, I'm not sure. He's coming to us from New Zealand. And he says, "Hi Nathan, I'm a great fan of your YouTube channel. I have learned a lot from you, or from them, I guess, the videos. Thanks a lot, Arthur. I appreciate that. I think it's awesome if I could teach anybody anything." But he says, "I'm loving the guy stick at the moment. If you have time, I was wondering if you could help me answer a few questions." Okay, so the first question: what do you think about Archangel Avacyn as a top-end finisher in that deck instead of the dragon? Plus, or rather, would help protect the Spell Queller or Geist from board wipes. I don't really like Avacyn. I tested Avacyn. It looked really cool when it was first spoiled. Here's the real problem. Well, there's two main issues, and this would be in the Geist deck or the Queller deck, or the Flash deck rather. The first problem is we can't control when it flips into its more powerful form. Therefore, it's hard for us to use it to its full advantage. It's sort of like there's this other mode that, because I don't necessarily have a good way to kill, like I don't have like a quick way to sacrifice a creature or something, then since we don't have that, we can't control when it happens. And so it's not like we can play Avacyn to the board when the board state is in a current way, and then sack a creature and trigger it so that we kill like 4 of our opponent's things and then have this big beefy angel. Where we can't do that. And so a lot of times you're playing Avacyn just as a 5/5 flyer, or maybe you're playing it as a 5/5 flyer that protects Geist, but then there's potential for a blowout the other way. If you have a Snapcaster Mage, and after the Avacyn trigger is, well, technically they could even do it with the Avacyn trigger on the stack, right? Like if you had a Snapcaster Mage and a Geist of St. Traft, and you flash in Avacyn and they shoot your Avacyn comes in the battlefield, the indestructible triggers on the stack, and they shoot your Snapcaster Mage. Now Avacyn's going to flip, and Avacyn's going to kill your Geist of St. Traft. And so I don't really think that's what we want. And it's funny, I kind of forgot about that fact. And last night I asked Nick, I was like, hey, because it was the Flash deck and I had an Avacyn in it, I was like, what do you think about this? And he was like, yeah, but it seems like it could be a liability, because there's situations in which it could kill all your Spell Quellers, Golem Tokens, and Blade Splicers. And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. Kind of forgot. So that's really the two main things. It's really 3 points, I think. We can't control when it flips, so it's not like it's difficult for us to plan how to get a lot of value out of its other ability. A 5-mana 4/4 that just gives indestructible is probably not good enough on its own. And then lastly, it could potentially be a liability in some situations. Also, I just think that, if you're... I think the Thundermaw Hellkite for our deck, for what it's doing, is probably better. Okay, second question. What do you think about having a one of Sword of Fire and Ice in the deck, kind of a similar role to the Sword in a Fairy deck? I will say this. I love Sword of Fire and Ice. If I could run Sword of Fire and Ice and draw cards and kill things and do lots of damage, it would be totally amazing. I would love to do that. But here's the problem. And this is the same problem that Batterskull has right now, too. You only have 15 sideboard slots in Modern. And so, the way you're kind of building your sideboard is like, okay, if you think about it, besides individual card selections like maybe Stony Silence, even Stony Silence, actually, there's enough artifact decks. You're like, okay, I have this card for artifacts. I have these 4 cards for grindy matchups. I have these cards for spell-based matchups. at least that's what you should be doing more than this card for this deck, this card for this deck, this card for this deck. As much as you can, you want to try and build your sideboard as well rounded as you can make it, more around like archetypes or types of decks you're going to face. The problem is, Sword of Fire and Ice is a grindy card. It can turn any creature in your deck into a threat. It can draw you cards. It can kill other creatures. And so you're going to want to bring that in. It's going to be in like your grindy slot, right? You're going to want to bring it in against decks that grind. And the problem is you can't do that when a lot of the decks that grind run Call Against Command. Now Sword of Fire and Ice is a liability for you. You don't want to invest 5 mana only to have them blow it up and make you discard. It's terrible. Jund Death Shadow. Some lists don't, but some lists do run Call Against Command. Tier 1 deck. Jund, for all intents and purposes, still a Tier 1 deck. They run Call Against Command. Grixis Control runs Call Against Command. Grixis Delver runs Call Against Command. And so a lot of these matchups in which you want to bring in your grindy cards, you can't bring that one in. So it's like in those matchups you have a 14-card sideboard. And I just don't think that that's something that we can do. The same problem, I have the same issue with Batterskull. I played Batterskull off and on even after Call Against Command, and that's really what it came down to. It wasn't that there wasn't matchups that Batterskull was good again, where they was good in, that they didn't have artifact destruction. It was just that I also needed to bring it in against Jund, and I couldn't. So that's the real issue with Sword. It is very mana intensive and slow to get it going in Modern. That doesn't mean that there's a meta where it couldn't be good in, but I think that meta would have to be one where there's not many Call Against Commands running around. What's your opinion on Boros Charm in the deck? It would further the burn sub-theme, as well as protecting all of your creatures, especially Queller, from board wipes, or make your creatures like Click Block better, perhaps a 1 or 2 of. I like the flexibility because you could always, nose is itching. You could always use it for creature protection and later flash it back with Snapcaster for 4 damage. Okay, so here's the issue with Boros Charm, and I've tested it in the past. Trying to think of which. I'm trying to order these in order of importance. Okay, so I think the first is it doesn't really fit the plan of the deck. One of the allures to playing Jeskai is that your removal spells, Bolt, Helix, Electrolyze, can also be win conditions. It's a super powerful thing that shouldn't be overlooked. When you're playing a deck like Esper, and I've played Esper decks. I played Esper Geist, and one of the reasons I didn't like Esper Geist was like they're at 6 life, and I have like Path, Snap, Path instead of Bolt, Snap, Bolt, or Vampire of the Night I think I was playing, and it's like I don't have any reach to finish the game. These are truly just removal spells. That's all they do. And one of the reasons Jeskai is such a good shell for Geist is because all of these removal spells that you have to run in order to make way for Geist of St. Traft can also be flashed back later to finish the job and kill your opponent. And that's awesome. But Boros Charm doesn't do that. Boros Charm is really like, okay, I'm going to, protect my creatures, which, I don't think we're really that interested in. Maybe Spell Queller. But we're not so much interested in protecting our creatures as much as we are killing their creatures and killing them. And Boros Charm just doesn't kill their creatures. And the other reason it can be bad, which is sort of coupled into that, it doesn't kill their creatures, and we're not really running enough burn in the deck. Like, we don't have a critical mass. We don't have a high enough, enough burn spells. There's not a critical mass of burn spells in the deck in which Boros Charm is going to be able to double up on top of all of our other burn spells. That's what burn does, and we just don't have that many of those spells. We're also not that aggressive. We want to be aggressive. We can be aggressive, but a lot of times we're in a controlling role in the beginning parts of the game until we're ready to turn the corner. And Boros Charm just doesn't, it doesn't fulfill that controlling role. And when I say, we're not aggressive enough, a good example of that, I think, is something like Tribal Zoo. It's not really, or Domain Zoo. It's not really played anymore. But, they're just like, I want to play a Geist of St. Traft on turn 2, or play, Wild Nacatls and Curd Apes and Loxodon Smiters and Siege Rhinos, and I'm just going to play a bunch of dudes and burn you out with Tribal Flames. And so it's fine that they have this, big, burn spell to your face, because they're just trying to kill you the moment that the game starts, and we're not really trying to do that. And so we're not really, Boros Charm isn't really what we want. I'm sure there's metas in which it's good, but I just don't think it really fits the plan of the deck quite enough. And if you're talking about saving certain creatures or saving Guides of Saint Traft, one spell that I have run in the deck before, and I don't really necessarily think it's good enough, but it is interesting, is Mutagenic Growth. But that's more just because it's free. And it's also interesting because it can be flashed back for only 2 mana. But it can do a lot without the opponent. It just does it does. I don't run it, but it does a little bit more without any mana investment. It's super sneaky. It can save Geist from things like Anger of the Gods and Pyroclasm. You can make it so that Geist trades with a creature that's bigger than it. Anyway, I'm not talking about Mutagenic Growth, but I was just, when you talk about saving creatures and stuff, I'd be more interested in that probably than I even would Boros Charm. All right, so that's already a little over 10 minutes. Guys, thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, hearing how I would answer Arthur questions rather than just me only sharing it with Arthur. Next video, sorry, it's been a little while since I made a video series. I'm going to try to find some time this weekend since I'm not going to a tournament or anything, and I'll probably play Jeskai Flash. I will probably play the list that I won, or that I got second in this last tournament. And I was just thinking about it, in paper, Flash has been treating me pretty well. I got 29th in the Geneva Modern Tournament, and I got second in the tournament this past weekend. So I will probably play Flash. All right, guys, thank you very much. Be good, draw well, smash face, and I'll talk to you soon.